Okay, everyone, you're good to go.
Hey, um, hey everyone, welcome to LF Decentralized Trust Technical Advisory Council meeting for 12th February 2026. Before we get started, as usual, we have a couple of reminders. The first one is the antitrust policy. So we request all participants on this call to um, not do anything which any law across the globe prohibits. And we also tell them that we do have participants from across organizations. It could be that they do represent the competitor organizations. And the second one is all are welcome to all our meetings, and we welcome feedback. And let's ensure we respect everyone on the call, and we welcome everyone's feedback, and we make it a collaborative environment. Then let's move to the announcements. So for announcements, we have the first announcement, which is the developer weekly newsletter that goes out to the large developer community. And if you haven't already utilized it in the past, but please do you make use of this. All you have to do is leave a comment on the page. If you click on the link, that will take you to the day when you want to announce something or talk about your projects or request people to participate. It could be RFCs for your project. And once you leave your comment, that will be captured in that week's newsletter. The second one is last week we had Min talking about the mentorship program that was kickstarted. We still are in the phase of project submissions, and we are seeing so many project submissions so far. If you already haven't come across this, or if you're still planning to submit one, please make sure that you submit it by the due date, which is 13th March. And for those TAC members who are participating to review these, please make sure you review them. It's okay for us to review and start posting comments. You don't have to wait till the review period. So with that, let's go to the quarterly report section. I would still request all TAC members to review pending couple of quarterly reports that were due from last year. We don't have enough quorum or enough participants that have approved in order for us to accept these reports. I don't see much of a concern other than question to the credibility. And from a reporting perspective, from TOIP, the ask is that they qualify the work that was done in that quarter. So that's apart from those, I don't see any other questions or concerns. I'm actually also open for suggestions. How would you like to get these reports accepted so that we close the loop for those two projects? We can have acceptance on this call, or we could still do it asynchronously, but then I'll request all participants to please do go to the pull request and approve it. That
How many reviewers do we need to get a review passed?
we wait for at least 6 reviews to be in to
All right.
get it accepted.
Yeah, I think the TOIP the Trust over IP has 4 now. If folks could come in and take a look at that if there's no objection. I'm supposed to go to their steering committee meeting either this afternoon or tomorrow. I'm not sure. I have to check the calendar, but it would be nice to be able to go and have that approved.
It was yesterday at 2, Diane.
Yeah, damn, missed it. All right.
Thank you, Diane.
Yeah, here's the link if you don't have it, folks.
Okay. So yes, timely review really helps us. It will help us know the signals from the project. It will help us know what we are um, supposed to track, or like if there are any concerns. Those are the things that we look forward to. If we don't see any concerns, then I think acceptance would be helpful for us to close the loop. Now, moving on to the annual reports. We did receive a number of annual reports in the last week or so, and I haven't heard from any of the TAC members if they were ready. But I would like to hear if for any of these projects, if you have spent time on report. Please do let me know. The way I've been tagging is I'm tagging those people directly on the report, the pull requests, and I have asked primary and secondary reviewers to take a deep look at it, and for rest of the TAC members to create their own notes or formulate their own notes, so that it becomes easier for us to discuss in these meetings. I know there is also a goal that we set for ourselves in order to improvise on how we look through these annual reports. And I'm also open for suggestions on if you want to spend time on that first and then go through these. But let me pause here and ask if any of the TAC members want to present for any of these projects. Don't hear any, but I would strongly request that we go per schedule, and we request TAC members to have them reported. In the next meeting, we'll make sure we cover at least 3 out of these, at least 4 out of these reports. We'll probably spend around 10 to 15 minutes per each report. Oh, I see, Henrik.
Yeah, so I just unmuted myself. So in general, I could talk about the CACTI report because I reviewed it, but I have not prepared anything. So yeah.
Sure. Yeah, do you want to talk about it now, or do you want to like wait till the next meeting?
Maybe we wait to, is the next meeting in the other time? So like the later meeting, or is the next meeting in this time slot too?
Right, the next one.
What do you mean when you say next meeting? Like next
The-
week, right?
correct. The next
Yeah.
meeting at
I
1.
can already say that I cannot attend that one because that is, like 8 p.m. I hope to do it when I have time, but next week I have a private appointment. So maybe I give an overview about it now, then if that is fine. That will be a little bit shorter overview then, but then we have one where we can start with.
Sure, Henrik. Yeah, please go on.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think the most important points for the CACTI project are that it's stable and going forward. And even with Essentia, who was one of the, I assume from reading it here, main maintainers of the project continues, and not only continues, but is still like set up as a vendor neutral project with maintainers coming from different companies. There are 3 companies, which is Fujitsu, IBM, and Blockdaemon. So there are still enough maintainers for the project, even with Essentia having faded out of maintaining that project. And the project adoption is quite good too. What I like is that Cacti has this real world usage. Oh yeah, it's that link, like this real world usage document that gives an overview about projects that are based on Cacti, or that use Cacti. I think that is a really nice source to have that as a markdown with links and so on. And when it comes to the goals and achievements of the project. So it looks like the project had some problems regarding the move from the bigger Hyperledger org now being Hyperledger Cacti. There have been some problems with GitHub actions and so on, and with releases based on that namespace change, but all of them have been successfully solved in the last year. With even a new release have been done where all that is fixed. And for the coming year, the goal is to create a new major release, which is version 3. And from reading the overview, it looks quite possible that this is doable and that this will come because the blockers have been solved, and things like the OpenSSF scorecard have been implemented and have good scores, which brings, from my point of view, the project in a good state. And there are no specific requests or helps to the tech at this point. Yeah, that's it, I would say. Maybe if somebody's here who has more insight into Cacti, maybe can add if I missed something important. But in general, I would say it's a solid report and a quite positive report, understandable report, even for me who's not deep into that. So I like that. Yeah.
Thank you, Henrik. I see thumbs up from Rama. Don't hear any other questions, but I do have a question, maybe to Rama or other Cacti members. Um, do you see any concerns with reducing or like decrease in number of maintainers? Or is that all fine for now?
I mean, we do have clearly there's a concern in terms of uh, the activity going down a bit. As I mentioned in the report, one thing we are trying to do is to streamline the project, and I think there's something, if Rai is around, he's also aware of this. Over the years, we have accumulated a lot of different kind of ledger connectors. The philosophy being that um, Cacti would provide a lot of breadth for various DLTs to interoperate with each other, which require effectively writing connectors for different kinds of DLTs or even non-DLT systems which needed to trade assets with other DLTs. But this year, what we noticed is that partly for CI/CD efficiency, partly because it's just hard to maintain projects and also or maintain connectors, and also if the original developers of particular connectors are not stop maintaining them, then security vulnerabilities creep into them, and it's hard for the other maintainers or other contributors to fix them. So what we chose to do was to try and streamline or get rid of a lot of connectors that are just not being maintained and which are not particularly useful at this point, and just focus on a smaller set of connectors and other modules that are actively in use, that are actively being maintained, and which will support our agenda going forward, which is to align closely with the emerging standards. So, yep, I think that's the main thing we are doing. I imagine if we still had a larger team, then having more packages would not be that much of a problem. But given the loss of maintainers and the fact that our main feature contributor, which is Block Daemon, is focused on the SAP implementation. I think the streamlining or elimination of a lot of packages and focusing more on depth rather than breadth is the main impact there. I don't know if that's going to negatively impact the project, but I think it's still fine. We're still carrying on in our mission. So does that answer your question, Arun, or do you need more clarification?
Yes, that talks about the direction of the project. Thank you. Good to learn that there's still vision and the goal that is driving the project. Thanks, Rama. Any other questions to the Cacti project team? Don't hear any. So do we accept the project report, or do we still need some more time to evaluate the project?
I think it would make sense maybe to get some more approvals, maybe.
Sure, Henrik. We'll hold on to approving the report until the next time we gather. And I would request people to go ahead and submit your approvals also via the GitHub pull requests, if you can. That will help us count towards the total approvals. I also saw Rice notes. Yes, we can utilize the Git code as well. Okay, I'll chart with Ryan setting up the Git code for this report. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Let's move to the next section. But before that, Henrik, need your help in following up with overdue reports and also upcoming reports.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move to the discussion item for today. I hope you all got a chance to look through the summary of what we had discussed in January. So that would be that's in the GitHub discussion page. And here is all the things that I could gather from our meetings that we had in January. So I think the right next step for us would be to see which of them makes sense for us to continue for this year, or if we think like some of them are too ambitious, prioritize them and then start plan of action for ourselves. And when I say plan of action, in the past, what we have done is, depending on the goal, we set up task forces, and those task force, they gather the required information, or they do some POCs, they ask around people and come back to the rest of the TAC members, present their ideas and thought process, and then we formalize on those findings. So let's do that way. What we can probably do in this meeting, and what I need help with is see if you think any of this should be prioritized as a top goals that we must achieve this year, and then look at those that we can get started as task forces. And I also need your help in championing some of this work, and bring in some of your other maintainers or other community members to champion this. I'm open for suggestions. We can go through what we have here one by one, but if you have already gone through, we can all say, let's say the top 3 or 4 things that you think is the highest priority. That will help us set right direction. Henry?
Question, what is your idea to do so? Because I now have like points where I personally would say, oh yeah, from my point of view, it makes sense to put, like priority on those. But how can I share it now? Is it in the chat or what is your idea?
Question. Maybe in this meeting we can bring them up, but I would also suggest if some of these are missing or you think something else is important, we can leave as a comment on this discussion item. But since we are in this meeting, if we can speak about that, that would be helpful. So let's say, I think things that need a task force setup, right? Or dedicated focus areas that we have from these GitHub discussion items. I know in the past we have had a contributor ladder task force, and I would request if we can continue on that and set up goals based on what we want to achieve for this year. So this would be a version 2 of the task force, or possibly like an extension of what we have learned in that. Diane?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I'm back on track, I think now, and was going to bring that up at the next meeting anyways to reboot it and invite people to it. So that's a given for me to reboot that.
Thank you, Diane. And I'm assuming you would like to lead that.
I'll take it on again. Um, the other working group, the LFX Insights Task Force. I know, Hendrik, you mentioned that you'd had a conversation at either the member summit or the maintainer summit, and brought up a number of things that I'm sure we've all discussed a bit. But I was hoping that the LFX team would come to this meeting and tell us a little bit about their roadmap
Yeah.
before, and maybe respond to the notes from the conversation you had, Hendrik, before we set up a task force, just to see what their game plan is and how they're moving forward.
Yep. Sorry, go on.
If we could just invite them to come, maybe not to one of the 7 a.m. or the earlier meetings in 2 weeks' time, so that Hendrik and I could both be here too.
Thank you, Diane. I did receive some offline comments from David and the staff that day. So there is a possible help that we can receive in if we can set up, let's say, some feedback sessions for LFX team on what we need, what we are looking forward to. That is certainly a possibility. I see David raising hand as well. I'd like him to speak about it.
Yeah, I'm happy to reach out to somebody on that team and invite them. So that's good to know that the 7 a.m. call is the preferred time. I mean, I can't speak to their availability yet, but I'll reach out and then report back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I was next with hands up. So yeah, I totally agree on what Diane said. And I think what we've seen is that in theory, what LF Insights does is awesome because it would really help us to get the numbers we want from the project to create great reports out of it with good graphs and so on. But as long as the values are broken, it is useless. And I think that is, from my point of view, the most important message to the team because it's not about, oh, maybe we want this or that graph in addition. I think the most important thing today is to get the things that are available solid and correct. And I'm totally happy to attend a session with them, invite them here, and give them feedback next to the feedback I already gave. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan, you wanted to say something?
I'm not sure if I'm next, but I was just going to say I would like them very much to bring back anchors so that if someone generates a report, they can send a link that will regenerate it with the parameters that were given, because that was what was broken, um, and broke a lot of historical reports as well. So that's the key feature besides accuracy that I would like to see brought back in the UI.
Thanks, Dan. David, I'm assuming you're done, so I'll give time to Hart.
Hey, thanks, Arun. Yeah, I just want to second what everybody else here has said. Diane, I think we're in agreement. We would love for the LFX team to be more involved in this. We were planning on trying to ask them to be actually regular participants, and if there's a task force, regularly touch base and keep in touch. So hopefully, that will happen. I can't promise their availability, but ideally that's what happens. They like user feedback, and so this seems like great for them and great for us as well.
Thank you, Hart. So who would like to champion this work on the LFX Insights and create a task force and regularly give them feedback and maybe collect like closely work with the LFX team?
My suggestion would be not to volunteer or boot up a task force yet, but to wait until we have that first session with them, attending this meeting. I thought I heard in some conversation that they were actually working on most of this stuff already.
Yeah.
And had a new release coming out. So it may not be necessary to boot up a task force. So that's what I'm hoping to hear when they come to the meeting.
I agree. I don't know if we need a task force because I heard some of those things will be fixed in near future. So if LFX, does what it should do, then I don't think we need a task force. Then we have an awesome tool that we can use. So yeah, I'm with Diane, but I'm happy to be involved in any discussion and take some time on that topic.
Thank you, Dan and Hendrik. Hart?
Yeah, on those comments, I think it's just a good idea, to check back periodically to make sure, that things are working and things are going how you want them to go. So maybe a task force is too formal, um, but but just periodically checking in is probably good, I guess.
Thank you, Hart. One thing for sure I can try is um, in our regular check-ins with the staff, I can bring up at least maybe like once a month or once every 2 months to see if there has been any progress or if there is any action item done as part of feedback sessions that we have had here. For sure, I can do that. And if needed, we can, of course, bootstrap a task force later. I agree to Hendrik. We need an insider information. Um, yeah. So the next thing that I kind of find priority, because I don't see anybody else speaking on the priorities, is I know we have spoken about trust over IP and the report, and which got well maybe towards end of last year, maybe in the Q4. The project team itself liked it, the new format that we had put up. However, the question still has been on how do we measure progress or how do we gather health metrics information of those? Because some of the progress work, some of the work that they report does not reflect the work that was done in the quarter or in the year or so. Those are like long-standing activities, right? Or ongoing kind of an activity. And that's still a gray area. That's still, given that maybe if that is space, if somebody wants to um, spend time on, how do you think if we can form a task force or maybe have some sessions in brainstorming, what can we do on that front?
So in the feedback that I gave them on the fourth quarter or the last quarterly report that they submitted, I gave a number of suggestions. And unfortunately, as Daniela points out, I missed the steering committee meeting where I was going to offer to help them craft their next annual report. So I'll reach out there and see if maybe by the time this next annual report comes out, we can't get a little bit more detail in their report and come up with a template that works for them, and have them and just do some coaching there. But again, the yeah, doing a task force, if they, it may be in Trust Over IP, if they wanted to do a task force as a TAC member, I could join their task force on creating a template and all of that. Unless there are other people here on the TAC that are interested in Trust Over IP and standards that want to do that. But I think I might be singular in that interest.
Thank you, Diane. I know personally, Rama, you have experience working in this space and your feedback matters. Those will be valuable inputs for us to see how we can measure. Do you have any insights on this, or do you have any priority or preference?
Not at this time. I can review what's there and think about it. Yeah, sorry. No particular thoughts at this time.
No worries. Thank you, Rama.
Rama, if you could look at their quarterly report, and if you have any comments on that, that might help drive the discussion with Trust Over IP, that would be helpful too.
Sure, I'll do that. Yeah. Sorry, I was hoping to get to that today, but didn't find the time. I'll do it as soon as possible.
Thank you, Rama. Okay. Since I still don't hear on the prioritization front, the next thing that I heard was on the mentorship program. And this doesn't necessarily be a mentorship program for the maintainers, but also a mentoring activity for the TAC members. And if we look at it, there is a wide spectrum of mentoring as a thing that came up. Mentoring for the new maintainers, or like setting them guidelines for how they can attract new contributors. There was a mentorship ask for new TAC members. Any thought process if we should spend time on prioritizing it for now? I wish there was a way I can make everyone share their opinion.
What is the arguments against prioritizing that?
I don't hear any. So that's a good way to look at it. If we don't hear any arguments against it, maybe we should prioritize it. Okay, I'll take it that way. So we will set up some time in the coming weeks. And does the TAC feel like we need a task force for that? Or do you think we just set up a proposal on how this mentorship program works, and then we bring it for discussion and acceptance? Hendrik?
Don't know if it must be a task force, but I would like, so I for example, plan to get involved with Hyro this year into that topic. And I assume I will still have some questions on it. So I not feel that I would be ready for a task force since I'm a one-time user, but having like a Q&A or office hours, maybe something like that, I think that would be really helpful for me.
Thank you, Hendrik. Okay. I'm not hearing any other comments on that topic. So we will proceed with a Q&A session. We'll see how it goes. And we will formally launch a mentorship program for TAC members. The other thing, maybe this is a connected topic to what we wanted to achieve in the past, was I know we wanted to collect all the use cases and or at least all the adopters information and list them under the project. This is to notify, this will be helping them in many ways. This would be in the ecosystem mapping and collaboration kind of a space, right? So connecting to that, uh, I know we have had time spent on asking projects to create an ecosystem of all the connecting projects, all the connected projects that they would be working with. And on the continuation front, like in order for us to know the impact or the effect of any change, we were also listing down on adapters on the other end. I would like to see if we can spend time on that, if we should prioritize on that. I'm not hearing any comments though. Hmm. Okay. So how does the TAC feel about reviving the language, the translation activity, or like documentation translation activities, and leveraging regional chapters or regional communities and engaging them to do that? Do we set up a framework for how somebody can pitch in and start contributing? Do we need it to be monitored activity within the project, or do we need to set up a framework for all the projects and say, hey, here is a default option available, and here is how you can get started, or start asking regional communities to get started on this activity?
For me, that this is kind of a hard one because we have so many other things and we don't have a lot of people standing up to do them. That the outreach here to regional areas, unless someone has a specific, maybe some of the new members have a specific area or region that they're in that they'd like to champion. This takes a lot of effort, and I'm not sure that TAC members are that enthusiastic about this topic, but I'll stop now because there's other hands.
Thanks, Dan. David?
It looks like Osama's out on the call, so I could just share a conversation I've had with him recently on Discord. He actually does seem enthusiastic about this. He says he speaks Arabic and was looking into potentially reviving an Arabic translation for some fabric documentation. So this could be something we ask him to do if he wants to take on some sort of point person role and seeing what might be possible here. You might want to reach out to him and see if that's something he's interested in.
Sure, David. Thank you. Hendrik?
Yeah, and I started something in my region. to play with some ideas like starting a meetup, doing some video recordings in German and things like that. And I will be more than happy maybe in half a year or maybe in a quarter, whatever, to give an overview about what I learned, what worked, what didn't work, and so on. Yeah.
Thank you, Hendrik. So let me ask this question. Do you think such topics are to be best handled per project? Or do you think we set up a framework and provide a platform for either like the people who are interested in translating documentation, or for projects that are looking forward to contributors who can translate it for them? What do you think is the best approach? At least one challenge that I have heard from other projects in the past is when the documentation translation happens, they are required to validate it in order to formally accept them into the project. And they have had difficulties in doing so, or the reviews used to take a longer time, right? So do you think it's a concern, or there are other challenges similar to this that we should address from a TAC? Hendrik?
Yeah, so after you said this, I think when I, just had a brief look at that, I misinterpreted that topic. If this is really about only like documentation translation, I asked myself with, like all this AI things getting more and more, and YouTube even now starting, even if it sounds horrible, to do like auto translation of videos and so on. I don't know if that is really a topic we at tech level should spend time on. I mean, if a project sees a benefit in it, absolutely yes, go forward. But my assumption is that whatever we do could be for technical documentation obsolete in very near future.
Thank you, Hendrik. David?
I mean, I agree with your comment, Hendrik, and I like the way you were framing it, maybe looking at this more broadly, like how can we help projects tap into different regional communities? I mean, and I do think that broader lens is important. I mean, I think, we are a worldwide community, and there are people around the world who don't join project calls for a variety of reasons. That could be language. For example, most of our calls are in English, and so are we excluding people who don't feel comfortable speaking in English, or time zones, as this call has been, challenged to find a time zone that works for everybody. So I think it might be helpful for the TAC to look at, hey, are there ways that we can better leverage certain regions? And that doesn't necessarily have to involve translation, but it seemed like your focus was more kind of broader. Are there things kind of in general we could do to tap into people? And I think there are regions that are, could be, tapped into more. I know, for example, there's a lot going on with Bezu in Brazil, but that those people in Brazil haven't really plugged into some of the community channels around Bezu. So maybe that could be something the tech looked at. Like, how are we able to take more of an advantage of the different regions in the world that may not be contributing as much as some other regions, right?
Sophie?
I've had a lot of success in attracting developers from all parts of the world. We have developers in South America, developers in Africa, developers in Asia, Europe, lots and lots of places. I think so. So there's the thing about whether we need translation, but I think the agreement is like, yeah, it would be great if we can make projects be more open to diverse contributors, and I think translation may be part of that. But my opinion would also be it might also be inside the scope of another bullet point that I saw there, which is like the good first issue pipeline, like the first meeting point that projects have with new developers. Bullet point 2, community growth and sustainability. For me, these in many ways overlap. I think it would be great if more projects become as open as possible to new starters, diverse starters. Good first issues, I think, are part of that. Possibly some language adaptations with that as well. But I've had a lot of success with the good first issue front. And I agree with some of the comments saying that AI is a really valuable tool. It's not enough for some people. So I think we could maybe do a little bit of both.
Thank you, Sophie. Henrik?
Yeah, I'm just thinking out based on what Sophie just said. So one point I'm often seeing, especially if you work with documentation and do a manual translation, some of those translations will not be updated when the original one updates, right? So you have a lot of problems for bigger things. But so what Sophie just mentioned, like, hey, we have some good first issues and we have some beginner tutorials starting from, hey, how to do DCO as an example. So I think those topics that will not change over the next years, how to do that, I think those topics could be very interesting to maybe concentrate on those to create some multi-language content for them.
Great. Thanks, Henrik. All right. So, I mean, what I hear is these are more of project initiated activities, but I do see a value that the way David suggested, if there are any things that at a scope level, TAC can set up a framework that would benefit each of the projects for sure. Let's come back on this topic again. Okay, so the other topic that I see from the goals that we have set is, let us know if we should prioritize. This is more on the innovation front. There were two things. One is for people who are using the AI for contributions, do you think our current set of governance framework satisfies that? Do you think we can answer all the questions that somebody who is using the projects that we have would be looking for answers to? We have all those answers with us, or do you think there are open areas, gray areas that we should address? So that's definitely a big topic that we can debate on, and that's the task force that we have around the responsible Gen AI usage. The other topic could be just in terms of what can we leverage and what can we improvise within our ecosystem, and what can we ask our maintainers to improve on through tooling aspects, right? Any thoughts or comments on these? don't hear any. But for sure, this is one of the topics that we should address. And other than the tooling and the Gen AI aspects, right? Just in terms of how do we want to position, uh, like where people can see the connection between like what's emerging, what everybody is talking about nowadays, and then um, how can we communicate that LF decentralized trust has those projects, or it can form a base layer, or it can form a trust layer for building solutions that people are looking to. I think there are a number of questions and challenges, and of course, we do have working groups within Trust over IP and some of our other projects trying to address these challenges. But how do we communicate these out?
Yeah. This is Diane again. I'm sure we're all sort of the first bullet, the AI trust infrastructure task force. I think a lot of some of the expertise is in the trust over IP group, as well as there's some digital identity work that's going on in Hiro, and other projects, Paladin and other things that would probably have people with interest in this topic. So maybe we do a little bit of outreach or to the group, to the different projects, and see if there's people there other than just task force set up, and see if we can get someone not on the TSC leading it, and bring that forward. And it might be a way to engage the trust over IP folks a little bit more deeply with the TAC.
Thank you, Dan.
Or the Paladin people. So
Yeah, I'm just thinking there's a whole section of AI at the Linux Foundation, right? LFAI. I wonder if this is like a cross collaboration between the LFTT and LFAI, because it's hard to map AI trust challenges just from a blockchain perspective. I think you truly need to understand understandable AI and all that sort of thing. So it might be a collaboration between the LFTT and LFAI, right? I don't think this is something that has to happen within Paladin. Is a very privacy focused project, for example, not an AI infrastructure project. So these things around model verification, agent authentication, bias detection, I don't see them as a technology as part of the decentralized trust. I see that being on the ledger, on the different decentralized technologies we rely on, but the understanding of that not being within this group. That's my opinion in terms of maybe a collaboration with the AI part of the Linux Foundation.
Thank you, Enrique. I'm trying to formulate this. Okay, I see Hart raised the hand already. So, Hart, yes, I think you would be best to answer that.
Yeah, so there's already a bunch of stuff going on in this. I put a link to a Google Doc. Some of you have probably seen this before, um, about sort of some AI trust in general. So um, this is not necessarily something that is going to immediately, let us trust code. But there's a lot of active development going on in this space. Um, as far as what are the guidelines for code? Um, the LF is basically letting projects, do what they want at this point. We just encourage you to ask maintainers to document sort of when and how they use AI for code. Did that make sense?
Up from Enrique.
Awesome.
Thank
I
you,
think
Hart.
if I may, I'm very interested on AI and code assist and all this stuff. There are certain good practices for codes that are kind of starting to emerge in the like code assisted toolings, right? With different sorts of models and companies of like putting markdown files and context files inside your repos. You might have heard of agents.md is one of the movements out there. So maybe something we explore this year as the TAC is if there are certain guidelines and recommendations we want to give projects to better onboard these AI technologies onto the repos, right? Either to help new contributors leverage these things and use previous embedded context from maintainers or search capabilities inside documentations or code. So maybe an approach that way would help reduce what I call sloppy code or sloppy AI code that gets generated. So something like that I've seen a lot in different parts of AI research and adoption of AI in different projects.
Thank you, Enrique. I'm I know like we are 1 minute left, but I wanted to ask if we want to formulate that work stream. So let's do it this way. I want all of you to at least say the top 3 or 4 items. I know like I requested for 5 or 6 items, but depending on you, how many of these you would like to prioritize. If you can leave comments in the GitHub discussion, let us do it offline and prioritize on that part. And thanks for all the feedback in this call. I'll share a follow-up of this in a documented fashion. There was one more topic for discussion, which we will bring it up in the next week. This is around the Lab Steward program. And we do have options of openings available or open slots available. So if you have any maintainers or some of your community members looking forward to, please do nominate them. Okay, with that, we'll meet next week. Next week will be at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And thank you everyone for participating this week.
Thank you, Arun. Thank you, Hendrik, and thank you to the TAC and everyone who's joined us today. Arun, I'm going to stop the recording.